Hello, friends. I'm back. I had a good time actually doing that other one, even though the subject matter was somewhat stressful. So I thought I'd just keep going. Not everything will be a discussion of politics and current events like that. I have a few more things I want to kind of pull out of stuff I didn't talk much about in that long video, but my goal going forward is anytime I have an idea that I think is worthy of giving voice to, I'll put up a video. And my kind of target will be 15 minutes or less. I know that the first one probably a lot of people didn't watch that just because it was so long. Had a lot to say. Could have said more. That was actually a take two. The first one was an hour longer. That was a lot of fun. Today, a couple of things. Just going to start off with some clarification and a correction of a number. Not really material, but the uh, the number of non-voters has gone down partly because they've been still counting. We're almost done, I think, but there are a couple states that take a minute. So the number of non-voters is about half of what I might have said. I can't remember exactly the number I put out there, but the number I heard recently was 5 million. Still a lot, but kind of framing that a little bit, giving some context. Uh, Whenever somebody presents that as 5 million fewer voters, they're talking about 2020. So fewer voters than voted in 2020. There is another number that I'm not going to focus on much, is fewer voters for Kamala Harris than voted for Joe Biden in 2020. That was the truth. Fewer people of those that voted went that way as well. That's a slightly different ball game there, and lots of people are talking about why that might be, and I don't need to get in on that. And let's see. So one other thing, in case it wasn't clear, I know I made some bold statements about the people that voted for Trump. I don't hate anybody. That's just not in my nature to actually have hatred for somebody. That's not generally the way I'd approach things. I might hate actions that some people take and disapprove of words they use. Words less than actions. Actions have much more consequence than words, although words mean something. That's why we have them, why we use them. People are always getting their bent out of shape out of over words, and so they're not inconsequential. Um, yes, Trump did win the election. He got more votes, 51% ish, right in there. He's talking about it as a giant mandate. It's not such a huge mandate because there's still 49% of the population, which is a lot of people of the voting population. It's a lot of people. So, but it's clear, um, and I haven't heard any reasonable people crying fraud from the Democrat side. There have been a couple of people that have had questions, but the reasonable people kind of swat those down pretty quickly. All right, so with that out of the way, and segueing basically along the same vein, um, what's happening next. Uh, the majority of people that voted want. Okay, let's take that premise. They want what happens next. I'm also going to add another premise, another assumption to what I want to look into today or discuss, and that's that actually a lot of them didn't do a ton, didn't watch a ton, didn't pay attention a lot to what was going on. They may have paid attention to a few of the words, or they completely discounted that some of the more outrageous things that were said. Well, it's just him spouting off. Um, So I'm going to assume that's the case with a lot of the voters in that scenario. So what I'm going to talk about next is a thought experiment that I've heard people talking about, which is really just a seriously hypothetical situation or situations, approaches, about how much political capital or effort should be expended in fighting back against some of the worst things that could happen. As I mentioned in my last video, taken at his word, there could be a number of, at least for a reasonable human being, some very disturbing things coming up. They're based on who he's been picking for his cabinet. I'm not going to amend my position that it's going to be somewhere more than just pretty bad, especially in certain of the efforts that he's undertaking. So the thought experiment is, just how much should we fight back? Should we, and basically the only people that can really do it, other than lots of speaking up and civil disobedience and things like that, would be the members of Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate. But really, how hard should they fight against some of these things, if they even have an opportunity to? So let's just assume that it's a bill that's being proposed. Not all of the things that he's wanted to do require congressional approval, but let's assume that he's trying to do something that does. So on the many things that he's talked about doing, which ones would we want to fight over, and by fight, try to resist, try to persuade that we shouldn't do it, or shouldn't do it to that level. So let's think about immigration as a scenario. I think everybody that's talked about this is pretty much settled on, well, it matters what the scenario is, what the case is. It's a case by case thing. And so if he goes all in, the guy he's got in charge of taking care of the illegal immigrants that are in our country decides, yeah, he's going to do the whole kit and caboodle, wants them all out of here. That's going to be military or police busting down doors, dragging families out, checking papers of anybody that doesn't look like me or similar, that looks ethnic in pretty much any way. We'll have to present papers. There may be internment camps as a temporary measure. There has been questions asked about, what about the children that are legal by birth? And the answer was they can go too, even though they're citizens. And Trump has already said too that he doesn't believe birthright citizenship is a thing. It should be a thing. So there may be an attempt to deal with that, although that's a constitutional thing. So that's the outer boundary of that, the whole all-in approach, and I think everybody agrees that we should speak up against that. Everybody on the non-Trump voter side, I don't think that would disturb people unless they started seeing their neighbors dragged away, or family members or something. But on the lighter end of it, something that probably wouldn't even have a lot of disagreements around. We might even, everybody would potentially support this, would be focusing first on the illegal immigrants that are here and have committed crimes. I don't think anybody thinks they really should be sticking around anyway in that case. They gave up their chance at any future options. Perhaps the people who have been here for a while illegally and haven't applied for asylum or made any steps to make it legal in any way. I don't know how many those are, but I don't think that it will be controversial to some, but probably not worth putting up a big fight over to stop. So it's things like that. But so underlying this, there's an analogy or a way to approach it that kind of starts from a place of anger for most of the people that have talked about it. Is imagine there's this really cool guy standing next to a hot stove and saying, "Man, this stove is awesome. It's really cool. You should touch it. You should touch this stove." And so, of course, if you're following along, that's Trump saying, "Vote for me. He's the hot stove." And the idea is letting a bunch of bad stuff happen, not really putting much of a fuss over it, because that's you're gonna get burned. I presented that in not as smooth a way as I heard it, but that's sort of the concept is that it's a teaching moment for the folks that decided not to look too far into or decided to ignore or discount or whatever the words that were coming out of his mouth and being heartily supported by the folks that are going to be, working with him the whole time through, or at least at the beginning, because he's got a pretty good track record of firing anybody he hires. So I wouldn't expect that everybody that's part of his cabinet now will be in a year or 2 years. So there's that concept and something to kind of park in your head and think about a bit. I guess the other side of that, it comes from a place of anger at the beginning. They bought and paid for this situation. Let them get the full package. And then backing down a little bit, where most people coming from their better selves would say, is just pick your battles. Don't spend the effort to fight things that aren't going to cause great harm. And let them happen, and let people learn that they need to pay attention when they're going to pick someone to vote that's pretty unpalatable, but might be aligned with a party that you think would be better, versus kind of taking a look at what they're talking about and standing for and what's going on there. So anyway, it's that's what I'm going to say for today. Not much else to talk about at the moment. I have a few of the subtopics, and I did get a comment, not in YouTube, but with someone took the time to write quite a few things to me. Then one of them I could agree with, and there was at least one or two points in there that I'd love to talk about for a little bit. So we'll probably do a video on that coming up. Thanks for listening. Anybody that's doing so. And until next time.